The Mafia boss had fired 7 nannies in 11 months, but the 8th one never even got the chance to quit. I don't like her. 8-year-old Lucas Vale stood at the top of the marble staircase, staring down at the woman beside his father as if she were the most dangerous person who had ever entered his home. Elena Carter looked up at him calmly. She had been warned that Lucas was difficult, stubborn, and emotionally closed off. Nobody had warned her that the boy would recognize her the moment he saw her. Adrian Vale slowly turned toward his son. You haven't even spoken to her. Lucas folded his arms. I don't need to. The mansion became silent. Adrian was used to silence. He had built his empire through it. Men stopped talking when he entered a room. Enemies lowered their weapons when his name was mentioned. Adrian Vale was the kind of Mafia boss people feared without needing to be threatened. But Lucas had never been afraid of him. The 8-year-old was the only person who could walk into Adrian's office while armed men discussed dangerous business, climb into his lap, and demand chocolate without caring who was watching. He was the only person Adrian would forgive for interrupting a meeting. The only person who could make the feared Mafia boss abandon everything with a single frightened phone call. That was why Adrian had become desperate enough to hire another nanny. The first nanny had lasted 3 weeks. The second lasted 9 days. The third quit after Lucas locked her outside during a thunderstorm. The fourth accused him of being impossible. The fifth secretly sold photographs of the Vale family. The sixth spent 2 months asking questions about Adrian's business. The seventh never even made it through her first week. Lucas refused all of them. And now Elena Carter was standing inside his mansion. The one woman Adrian had spent 3 years trying to forget. She isn't staying, Lucas announced. Adrian looked up at him. Go to your room. Lucas didn't move. Dad. Lucas. I said she can leave. And I heard you. Adrian's voice remained quiet, but Lucas knew that tone. Now go upstairs. Lucas glanced at Elena again. You won't be here tomorrow. Elena raised an eyebrow. How do you know? Lucas shrugged. Because everyone leaves. Something changed in Adrian's expression. Elena noticed. Lucas turned and disappeared upstairs. Adrian waited until his son was gone before looking at Elena. You see the problem. Elena folded her arms. No. I see a frightened child. Adrian's eyes hardened. Don't analyze my son. Then don't hire me. You already accepted. You offered me twice what I asked for. Money isn't your reason. Elena's expression changed. You really haven't changed. Adrian stepped closer. Neither have you. 3 years earlier, Elena Carter had been one of the few people Adrian trusted. She had worked as a legal investigator for one of his legitimate companies and had known enough about his world to understand that the polished businessman everyone saw was only half of Adrian Vale. The other half was darker, more dangerous. Elena had seen enough of that world to know what Adrian was capable of. Then her older brother Daniel disappeared. Elena searched for him for months before discovering evidence suggesting that people connected to Adrian's organization had been involved. She confronted Adrian. He denied everything. Elena didn't believe him. That night, she walked out of his life. Adrian never forgave her for accusing him. Elena never apologized. And now she was standing in his home again, taking care of his son. You should leave, Adrian said. Elena almost smiled. You called me. Because Lucas needs someone. Then maybe stop treating every woman who enters this house like an enemy. You are an enemy. Elena stared at him. Then why did you hire me? Adrian said nothing. That silence told her more than an answer would have. You need me. Don't confuse necessity with trust. I wouldn't dream of it. You'll follow my rules. As long as your rules don't hurt Lucas. His eyes sharpened. You don't decide what's good for my son. Someone should. Adrian moved closer until only a few inches separated them. Be careful, Elena. She didn't step back. I always am. A loud crash suddenly came from upstairs. Adrian turned immediately. Lucas. He rushed toward the staircase. Elena followed. They reached Lucas's bedroom and found the boy standing beside his desk, surrounded by broken picture frames. One photograph had been ripped down the middle. Adrian stopped when he saw it. His wife. Lucas's mother. The woman Adrian had buried 3 years earlier. What happened? Adrian asked. Lucas stared at the floor. I dropped it. You don't have to lie to me. Lucas's eyes filled with tears. I don't want her picture here. Adrian's expression softened. Lucas rarely talked about his mother. Elena crouched and picked up the photograph carefully. Adrian immediately said, Don't. Elena looked at him. It's already broken. She carefully placed the pieces together. Lucas watched her. She doesn't look happy. Elena looked at the photograph. Maybe she was tired. Lucas frowned. Daddy says she was happy. Elena glanced at Adrian. Your father probably wants you to remember her that way. Lucas stared at the photograph. I don't remember her voice. Adrian went completely still. Elena noticed. For the first time, she saw something beyond the feared Mafia boss. She saw a father watching his son slowly forget the woman they had both lost. Elena placed the photograph on the desk. Then we'll find something that helps you remember. Lucas looked at her suspiciously. You can't. Maybe not. She gave him a small smile. But I can try. Lucas looked at Adrian. Can she stay? Adrian stared at his son. Only minutes earlier, Lucas had demanded Elena leave. Now he wanted her to stay. For tonight, Adrian said. Lucas smiled. Can she read to me? Adrian looked at Elena. She raised an eyebrow. Apparently I have a job. 1 story. 2, Lucas said. 1. 2. Adrian sighed. 2. Elena almost smiled. Adrian started toward the door. Daddy. He stopped. Can she sleep here? Adrian turned around. Elena blinked. Lucas pointed toward the armchair. She can sleep there. Absolutely not. Lucas frowned. Why? Because she has a bedroom. But she'll leave. Adrian's expression changed. Lucas looked at Elena. You'll leave, right? Elena stared at him. I'm not planning to. Lucas looked toward his father. Adrian didn't say anything. That silence seemed to satisfy the boy. Good. As Adrian left the room, he heard Lucas whisper, I like her. Adrian stopped outside the door. Elena looked at Lucas. You said you hated me. Lucas shrugged. I changed my mind. Adrian stared through the doorway. Something about that bothered him. Lucas didn't trust people easily. Yet he had accepted Elena within minutes. That wasn't normal. Later that night, Adrian sat alone inside his office. A file lay open on his desk. Elena Carter. He had ordered Marcus to investigate her before allowing her anywhere near Lucas. Her financial records were clean. Her employment history was legitimate. No criminal connections.
No suspicious transactions.
No hidden accounts. Nothing. And that was exactly what bothered Adrian. Nobody was that clean around him. His phone rang. Boss, Marcus said. Adrian picked it up. What? We found something. Adrian leaned back. About Elena? Yes. Talk. She wasn't supposed to be in the city today. Adrian frowned. What does that mean? Her flight was scheduled for tomorrow morning. She changed it suddenly. Why? We don't know. Adrian's gaze moved toward the hallway. Anything else? Marcus hesitated. There's something from 3 years ago. Adrian's expression hardened. What? Elena wasn't just investigating Daniel Carter's disappearance. Adrian went silent. Then what was she doing? Marcus lowered his voice. She was investigating you. Adrian's jaw tightened. I already knew that. No, boss. Marcus paused. She was investigating you before Daniel disappeared. Adrian froze. How long before? 6 months. Adrian slowly leaned back. Why? We are trying to find out. A knock came at the office door. Adrian immediately ended the call.
Come in.
Elena stepped inside. Lucas is asleep. Adrian looked at her. Why are you here? He asked me to tell you good night. You could have left that with a guard. Elena placed a glass of water on his desk. You really don't know how to talk to people, do you? And you really don't know when to leave. She turned toward the door. Good night, Adrian. Elena. She stopped. Why did you take this job? You already know why. I don't. Because Lucas needed someone. That isn't your reason. Elena slowly turned around. You want the truth? Yes. She stared at him. Because 3 years ago, I thought you destroyed my family. Adrian's eyes hardened. And now? Elena took a breath. Now I'm not sure. That answer unsettled him. What changed? Your son. Adrian said nothing. Elena continued. Lucas doesn't behave like a child who hates his father. He behaves like a child who's terrified of losing him. Adrian looked away. You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe. She moved toward the door. But I know children. She paused. And Lucas is hiding something. Adrian's eyes sharpened. What? Elena looked directly at him. He keeps asking me the same question. What question? He asks if I know where his mother really went. Adrian went completely still. What did you tell him? I told him I didn't know. You should have told me immediately. I'm telling you now. When did he ask? Tonight. Adrian's voice dropped. What exactly did he say? Elena hesitated. He asked if I knew why his mother was afraid of you. Adrian's face became unreadable. She wasn't afraid of me. Elena stuttered him. Are you sure? Yes. Then why would your son say that? Adrian didn't answer. Because deep inside him, something he had buried for 3 years had suddenly started moving again. A memory. A night. His wife standing in the doorway of this exact office. Her face had been pale. She was holding a small envelope. If anything happens to me, she had whispered, don't trust the person who tells you I ran away. Adrian had thought she was talking about one of his enemies. 2 days later, she was dead. At least, that was what everyone had told him. Adrian looked at Elena. Where is Lucas? Sleeping. Go check on him. Elena frowned. Why? Just go. She immediately left. Adrian followed several seconds later. When they reached Lucas's room, the door was slightly open. Elena pushed it gently. Lucas. No answer. Adrian stepped inside. Then he saw the window. Open. His entire body went rigid. Elena. She turned. What? Did you leave this open? No. Adrian moved toward it. Muddy footprints crossed the floor. Small ones. Children's footprints. Elena's face went pale. Lucas. Adrian turned toward the bed. The blanket was still there. The pillow was still there. But Lucas was gone. Elena covered her mouth. Adrian's expression changed instantly. The Mafia boss disappeared. Only a terrified father remained. Lock the mansion, he ordered into his phone. Nobody leaves. Nobody enters. I want every camera feed pulled now. Elena grabbed his arm. Adrian. He turned. What? Look. She pointed toward the pillow. A small folded piece of paper sat on it. Adrian picked it up. 3 words were written across the front. You trusted her. His eyes moved to Elena. For one dangerous second, neither spoke. Then Adrian unfolded the paper. Inside was another sentence. You hated the wrong woman. Elena's face drained of color. Adrian looked at her. What does this mean? She shook her head. I don't know. His phone rang. Unknown number. Adrian answered immediately. A man's voice whispered, if you want your son alive, bring Elena Carter to the old warehouse. Adrian's blood ran cold. Who are you? The voice laughed softly. Ask her. The call ended. Adrian lowered the phone. Elena was staring at him. I don't know what he means. Adrian stepped closer. Then we are going to find out. Adrian, wait. No. Listen to me. You have 10 seconds to tell me what you know. I don't know why they took Lucas. 9. But I know why they took me. 8.
Elena swallowed.
Because Daniel wasn't investigating you. Adrian stopped counting. What? He was investigating Lucas's mother. Adrian stared at her. Elena reached inside her coat. And 3 years ago, before your wife disappeared, she gave me something. Adrian's face changed. What? Elena pulled out a tiny silver key. Adrian stared at it. He recognized the symbol engraved on it immediately. It was the same symbol his wife had drawn on the envelope the night she vanished. Elena looked at him. She told me never to give this to you. Adrian's expression became deadly. Why? Elena's eyes filled with tears. Because she said if you ever saw it, you would finally know that Lucas wasn't the person they were trying to protect. She closed her fingers around the key. He was the person they were trying to use. Suddenly, the mansion's security alarm screamed. Every light went out. Adrian immediately pulled Elena behind him. Stay here. Then they heard something. A child's voice. Coming from somewhere downstairs. Daddy. Adrian froze. It was Lucas. Lucas. He ran toward the stairs. Elena followed. Adrian, wait. But Adrian was already moving. He reached the bottom of the staircase and stopped. Lucas was standing alone in the dark hallway. Barefoot. Still wearing the pajamas he had gone to sleep in. Adrian rushed toward him. Lucas. He dropped to his knees and grabbed his son. Are you hurt? Lucas shook his head. Adrian checked his arms, his face, his neck. Who brought you here? Lucas looked over Adrian's shoulder. At Elena. His expression suddenly changed. Fear appeared in his eyes. Daddy. Adrian turned. Elena stood frozen halfway down the stairs. Lucas whispered, Don't let her come near me. Adrian slowly stood. Elena's face went pale. Lucas, what happened? The boy stepped behind his father. She knows. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Knows what? Lucas stared at Elena. The truth about Mommy. Elena couldn't speak. Adrian looked between them. What truth? Lucas's eyes filled with tears. She told Mommy to run. Elena's face completely lost its color. Adrian's voice became dangerously quiet. Elena. She shook her head. No. Lucas said you told his mother to run. Adrian, listen to me. You knew she was alive. Elena's eyes filled. I didn't know she was alive. Adrian stepped toward her. Then how did you tell her to run? Elena backed away. Because I saw her that night. Adrian stopped. What? Elena's voice broke. 3 years ago, the night everyone told you your wife died. She looked at Lucas. I saw her leave this house. Adrian's blood ran cold. With whom? Elena didn't answer. Adrian's voice hardened. With whom? Elena looked at him. With Daniel. Adrian froze. His dead brother. His missing brother. The man everyone believed had disappeared long before Adrian's wife died. Elena whispered, Daniel was alive. Adrian stared at her. Lucas suddenly grabbed his father's hand. Daddy. Adrian looked down. Lucas was staring toward the dark hallway. What? Lucas pointed. A small red light was blinking on the ceiling.
A camera.
Adrian's eyes narrowed. Someone was watching them. Then a voice came through the mansion's hidden speakers. A voice Adrian hadn't heard in 3 years. His wife's voice. Adrian. His entire body went cold. Elena covered her mouth. Lucas whispered, Mommy. The voice came again. Don't trust Elena. Adrian slowly turned toward Elena. And then his phone vibrated. One new message. A photograph appeared on the screen. It showed Lucas's mother standing beside Daniel. Both of them were alive. And between them stood a third person. Adrian stared at the photograph. His blood turned to ice. Because the third person was the one man he had trusted more than anyone in his entire life. Marcus. His right-hand man. The man currently standing somewhere inside the mansion. The man who had been investigating Elena for him. The man who knew every security code in the house. Adrian slowly looked toward the hallway. Marcus. No answer. Then the mansion doors slammed shut, and from somewhere in the darkness came a man's voice. Finally, Adrian. Adrian pulled Lucas behind him. Elena moved beside them. The voice laughed. Now you're ready to hear what really happened to your family. Adrian pulled Lucas tighter against him as the voice echoed through the dark mansion. Now you're ready to hear what really happened to your family. Elena's breathing became shallow. She stared into the darkness, trying to locate the speaker, but every hallway looked identical without the lights. Adrian's hand moved beneath his jacket, reaching for the weapon hidden at his waist. Show yourself, Adrian ordered. A quiet laugh came from somewhere near the dining room. You still think a gun can solve everything? Adrian's eyes narrowed. Marcus. Nothing. Lucas suddenly grabbed Adrian's shirt. Daddy, don't go. Adrian looked down at him. I'm not going anywhere. Lucas shook his head desperately. You always say that. The words hit Adrian harder than any threat could have. He crouched in front of his son. Listen to me. Whatever happens, you stay behind me. Do you understand? Lucas nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on Elena. Elena noticed. Lucas, I would never hurt you. The boy's lips trembled. I know. Adrian looked at him. You know. Lucas swallowed. I know she didn't hurt Mommy. Elena stared at him. Then why did you tell Dad not to trust me? Lucas looked toward the dark hallway. Because they told me to. Adrian's expression changed. Who? Lucas didn't answer. Lucas. The boy squeezed his father's hand. The man who comes when you're asleep. Adrian's blood ran cold. What man? He wears black gloves. Elena exchanged a look with Adrian. When did you see him? After Mommy died. Adrian's face tightened. Lucas, your mother died 3 years ago. Lucas shook his head. She didn't. The words seemed to freeze the room. Adrian stared at his son. What did you say? Lucas looked at him with tears in his eyes. Mommy didn't die. Elena stepped closer. Lucas, how do you know that? Because she came to me. Adrian's breathing stopped for a moment. When? After the funeral. Adrian looked toward Elena. She was staring at Lucas in disbelief. Lucas continued. She came to my room that night. Adrian's voice became barely audible. What did she say? Lucas looked at him. She said I had to be brave. Adrian's eyes burned. What else? She said Daddy would be angry if he knew. Why? Lucas shook his head. I don't remember. Adrian grabbed the edge of the table to steady himself. For 3 years, he had believed his wife was dead. He had buried her. He had watched the coffin disappear beneath the earth. He had spent countless nights sitting alone in his office, staring at her photograph, blaming himself for not protecting her. And now his 8-year-old son was telling him she had visited him after the funeral. It couldn't be true. It had to be manipulation. Someone had planted this story inside Lucas's head. But then Adrian remembered the strange things Lucas had done after his mother's supposed death. The locked bedroom. The nightmares. The way he sometimes whispered toward empty corners. The drawings. Adrian had thought they were grief. Maybe they weren't. Where is she? Adrian asked. Lucas looked at Elena. I don't know. Adrian's eyes sharpened. Who does? Lucas shook his head. I don't know. The hidden speaker crackled. Then Marcus spoke again. That's enough. Adrian immediately pulled Lucas behind him. Where are you? A light suddenly flickered on at the far end of the hallway. Marcus stood there. He was dressed in the same black suit he had worn earlier that evening. His hands were empty. His face was calm. Too calm. Adrian stared at him. You have exactly 5 seconds to explain why my son disappeared from his bedroom. Marcus smiled. Your son wasn't kidnapped. Adrian's eyes became deadly. Then where was he? Marcus looked at Lucas. He came to me. Lucas immediately hid behind Adrian. Adrian noticed. Why is my son afraid of you? Marcus's smile disappeared. Because you taught him to fear everyone. Adrian took one step forward. Don't talk about my son. Marcus sighed. You've spent years protecting him from the wrong people.
Elena steped beside Adrian.
Where is his mother? Marcus looked at her. You know better than anyone.
Elena's face tictened.
I know she was alive. Marcus smiled. That's a start. Adrian turned toward Elena. What does he mean? Elena looked at him. I told you. I saw her leave. You said you didn't know she was alive. I didn't. You saw her. Adrian, I saw her 3 years ago. I didn't know where she went after that. Marcus laughed softly. Adrian looked at him. What? Marcus shook his head. You really don't see it. Adrian's hand tightened around his weapon. See what? You've been blaming Elena for 3 years because it was easier than admitting you never knew your wife. Elena's eyes filled with anger. Shut up. Marcus looked at her. You were there that night. Yes. You spoke to her. Yes. You gave her a way out. Elena's expression hardened. Because she begged me. Adrian stared at Elena. You helped my wife escape. Elena turned toward him. I helped a terrified woman survive. From whom? Elena didn't answer. Adrian stepped closer. From whom, Elena? She looked directly into his eyes. From you. Adrian froze. Lucas looked between them. Elena's voice trembled. Your wife believed someone inside your organization was going to kill her. She thought the person was using you to get to her. Adrian's jaw tightened. Who? I didn't know. You expect me to believe that? I don't care what you believe. Adrian moved closer. You knew my wife was afraid. Yes. And you helped her leave. Yes. Then why did you let me believe she was dead? Elena's eyes filled with tears. Because she made me promise. Why? Because she believed if you knew she was alive, you'd go looking for her. Adrian stared at her. And you thought I would hurt her?
No.
Elena shook her head. She thought someone would use you to find her. Adrian looked toward Lucas. Who? Elena whispered. She never told me. Marcus suddenly clapped slowly. Beautiful. Adrian turned toward him. Marcus was smiling. You're finally asking the right questions. Adrian's voice dropped. You're going to answer them. Marcus shook his head.
No.
Adrian pulled his weapon. Lucas gasped. Elena immediately placed a hand on Lucas's shoulder. Stay behind me. Marcus didn't even flinch. Go ahead. Adrian's eyes narrowed. You think I'm afraid to kill you?
No.
Marcus smiled. I think you're afraid of what you'll find if you do. Adrian didn't lower the gun. What did you do to my wife? Marcus's expression changed. Nothing. Where is she? Alive. Adrian's heart slammed against his chest. Lucas looked up. Mommy is alive. Marcus looked at him. Yes. The boy's face filled with hope. Adrian's voice became deadly. Where? Marcus looked toward Elena. Ask the woman who has been protecting her secret. Adrian turned. Elena looked horrified. Adrian, I don't know where she is. Marcus laughed. You really are good at lying. Elena suddenly moved toward him. Why are you doing this? Marcus's expression hardened. Because your brother left something behind.
Elena froze.
My brother. Daniel. Her face went pale. What did he leave? Marcus looked at Adrian. A message. Adrian lowered the gun slightly. For whom? For Lucas. Lucas's fingers tightened around Elena's hand. Adrian noticed. Don't touch my son. Elena immediately released him. Marcus reached into his jacket. Adrian raised his weapon again. Slowly. Marcus pulled out a small black envelope and dropped it onto the floor. That's the last thing Daniel sent before he disappeared. Elena stared at it. Adrian moved forward and picked it up. The envelope had one word written across the front. Lucas. Adrian looked at his son. Did you know about this? Lucas shook his head. Adrian opened it. Inside was a photograph. Lucas was younger, maybe 5 years old. He was standing beside his mother. But Adrian had never seen the photograph before. His wife was smiling. Lucas was holding a small wooden box. On the back of the photograph was a handwritten message. He doesn't know what he carries. Adrian stared at the words. What does that mean? Marcus didn't answer. Adrian looked at him. What does my son carry? Marcus smiled. Ask him. Adrian looked at Lucas. Lucas. The boy looked frightened. I don't know. Think. I don't know, Daddy. Elena crouched beside him. Lucas, did your mother ever give you anything? The boy hesitated. Adrian noticed. Lucas. The boy's eyes filled with tears. She gave me a key. Elena immediately looked at Adrian. What key? Lucas reached into the pocket of his pajamas. Adrian's expression changed. The boy pulled out a tiny brass key. Elena stared at it. Adrian slowly took it. This isn't the silver key. Elena shook her head.
No.
Adrian examined it. A number was engraved on the metal. 317. Marcus's expression changed for the first time. Adrian noticed. You know that number. Marcus said nothing. Adrian stepped toward him. Where is 317? Marcus smiled again. You're getting closer. Adrian suddenly moved. He grabbed Marcus by the collar and slammed him against the wall. Where? Marcus grunted. Too late. Adrian pressed the gun beneath his jaw. Where is it? Marcus looked past Adrian. At Lucas. Your son already knows. Adrian turned. Lucas was staring at the floor. Lucas. The boy didn't answer. Adrian walked toward him. Look at me. Lucas slowly raised his eyes. Where did you get that key? Mommy. When? I don't remember. You do. Lucas started crying. She told me to keep it. Where? In my room. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Where in your room? Lucas pointed upstairs. Inside the blue horse. Adrian looked at Elena. What blue horse? Lucas whispered, my toy. Adrian rushed upstairs. Elena followed. They entered Lucas's bedroom. The blue wooden rocking horse sat near the window. Adrian knelt and examined it. Nothing. Lucas, he said. Where? The boy pointed toward the horse's belly. Adrian turned it over. There was a tiny metal latch. He opened it. Inside was a hidden compartment. And inside the compartment was a phone. Elena started. That's impossible. Adrian picked it up. The phone was old. 3 years old. Its battery was nearly dead. A single video was saved on it. Adrian pressed play. The screen flickered. His wife's face appeared. Adrian stopped breathing. She looked tired, terrified, but alive. Adrian, she whispered. His hand tightened around the phone. If you're watching this, then something went wrong. Elena stood completely still. Lucas stepped closer. Mommy. His mother's eyes filled with tears on the screen. Lucas, if you're with your father, listen carefully. Adrian stared at the screen. Your father isn't the man you think he is. Adrian's face hardened. Elena immediately looked at him. The recording continued. But he isn't the monster they want you to believe he is either. Adrian's expression changed. His wife looked toward something outside the camera. Someone inside Adrian's organization has been selling information about our family. She lowered her voice. I don't know who. Adrian glanced toward the door. Marcus. The recording continued. They know about Lucas. His wife started crying. And they aren't interested in Adrian's money. Adrian's blood ran cold. They want something Lucas has. Elena whispered, the key. Adrian looked at her. His wife continued. If they ever find out about the key, they will come for him. Lucas moved closer to the screen. Mommy, where are you? The recording couldn't answer. His mother continued. I need you to trust someone, Lucas. Adrian stared at the screen. Someone who will protect you even if your father can't. The video suddenly glitched. Then his wife said a final sentence. Find Daniel. The screen went black. Elena's face had gone white. Adrian stared at the dead phone. Daniel was alive. I told you.
No.
Adrian turned toward her. You told me you saw him. Elena didn't answer. You knew he was alive. I suspected. You lied to me. I was protecting Lucas. You had no right. Elena's voice broke. Your wife begged me. Adrian fell silent. She came to me because she knew someone was watching her. She told me Daniel had discovered the truth, but before he could tell her everything, he disappeared. Where did he go? I don't know. You're lying. I swear I'm not. Adrian stared at her. For the first time, he couldn't tell whether he wanted to believe her or destroy everything she had hidden from him. Then Lucas suddenly screamed, Daddy! Adrian spun around. The bedroom window had shattered. Elena grabbed Lucas and pulled him to the floor. A bullet struck the wall where Adrian's head had been. Adrian immediately returned fire toward the window. Get down! Another bullet tore through the curtains. Adrian grabbed Lucas and moved him behind the bed. Elena crawled beside them. Is he hurt?
No.
Lucas was shaking violently. Adrian held him close. I'm here. Lucas buried his face against his father's chest. Don't leave me. Adrian closed his eyes for a second. Never. A third shot came through the window. Adrian waited. Silence. He moved toward the broken window and looked outside. Nothing. Whoever had fired was gone. Elena slowly stood. Adrian. He turned. She was holding the old phone. There's another file. Adrian stared at it. What? The video wasn't the only thing saved. She pressed the screen. A recording began. Daniel appeared. Adrian's entire body stiffened. Daniel looked exhausted. He had a cut across his forehead. His voice was barely above a whisper. Adrian, if you see this, I failed. Adrian stepped closer. Daniel looked directly into the camera. Your wife isn't dead. Adrian stopped breathing. She went into hiding because the person hunting her wasn't one of our enemies. Daniel swallowed. It was someone you trusted. Elena whispered, Marcus. Daniel continued. Don't trust anyone who tells you I betrayed you. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Daniel knew. The recording continued. There's a reason they want Lucas. 3 years ago, your wife found out that someone inside your organization was using your name to move money, weapons, and people without your knowledge. Adrian's face hardened. Daniel looked terrified. She discovered the accounts. Elena stared at the screen. Who? Daniel's voice dropped. Your wife discovered that the person controlling those accounts had access to everything. The video suddenly glitched. Then Daniel said something that made Adrian's blood run cold. The person who knows everything is not your enemy. Adrian leaned closer. He's your family. The recording ended. Silence filled the room. Elena stared at Adrian. Adrian stared at the black screen. Then a sound came from downstairs. A door opening. Adrian immediately reached for his weapon. Stay here. Elena shook her head.
No.
I'm not asking. She grabbed Lucas's hand. Neither am I. They moved quietly toward the hallway. Adrian reached the staircase. Then he stopped. Marcus was gone. The front door was open. And on the floor lay a trail of blood. Adrian followed it into the hallway. The trail ended at the entrance to his private study. He slowly pushed the door open. Marcus was inside. He was on his knees. Blood soaked his shirt. Adrian raised his gun. Who shot you? Marcus laughed weakly. You finally figured it out. Who? Marcus looked past him. At Lucas. Then at Elena. Neither of them. Adrian frowned. Then who? Marcus's expression became strange. Almost afraid. She came back. Adrian's heart stopped. Who? Marcus whispered one word. Your wife. Elena's face went white. A soft sound came from behind them. Lucas turned toward the hallway. "Mommy." Adrian slowly turned. A woman's silhouette stood at the far end of the corridor. She was wearing a dark coat. Her face was hidden in shadow. Lucas took one step forward. Adrian immediately blocked him. "Stay behind me." The woman didn't move. Then she slowly lifted her face. Adrian's entire world seemed to stop. It was her. The woman he had buried. The woman whose grave he had visited for 3 years. His wife. Lucas's mother. Alive. Her eyes met Adrian's. And instead of running into his arms, she whispered the one sentence that made Adrian realize they were in far greater danger than he had imagined. "Adrian, don't let Lucas come with me." Lucas stared at her. "Mommy." She looked at her son, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, baby." Adrian's gun lowered slightly. "What happened to you?" She looked toward Marcus, then Elena, then back at Adrian. "I didn't disappear." Her voice trembled. "I was taken." Adrian's face hardened. "By whom?" She took a step backward. "By the people who are coming for Lucas now." Suddenly, every security monitor in the hallway switched on at once. One after another, the screen showed the same image. The gates outside the mansion. Dozens of black vehicles were approaching. Adrian stared at the screens. His wife whispered, "They're here." Lucas grabbed Adrian's hand. "Daddy." Adrian looked down. His son was terrified. He squeezed Lucas's fingers. "I've got you." His wife shook her head.
"No, Adrian."
He looked at her. "You don't understand." She pointed toward the old phone in Elena's hand. That recording was never supposed to be found. Adrian frowned. "Why?" His wife's face turned pale. "Because Daniel didn't leave that message for you." She looked at Lucas. "He left it for the person who betrayed you." Elena's eyes widened. "Marcus." His wife shook her head.
"No."
Adrian's expression changed. "Then who?" His wife stared directly at him. "The person who has been protecting Lucas all these years." Adrian went silent. Lucas suddenly pulled away from his father. He stared at his mother. "You told me not to tell Daddy." Adrian's head snapped toward him. "What?" Lucas immediately covered his mouth. His mother's eyes widened. "Lucas." Adrian slowly crouched in front of his son. "What did she tell you?" Lucas began crying. "I'm sorry." "Lucas, look at me." The boy looked at him. "What did your mother tell you?" "She said you would hate her." Adrian's heart pounded. "Why?" Lucas shook his head. "She said if you found out who was protecting me, you would kill him." Adrian looked at his wife. She was crying now. "Who?" Adrian demanded. Lucas whispered the answer. "Uncle Daniel." Adrian froze. His wife's eyes closed. And outside the mansion, the first gunshot echoed through the gates. The first gunshot echoed through the gates, followed by another, then another. Adrian immediately pulled Lucas behind him and raised his weapon toward the entrance. Elena grabbed the boy's shoulder, but Lucas refused to let go of his father's hand. "Daddy, they're coming." Adrian looked toward the security monitors. Black SUVs were pouring through the outer gates, their headlights cutting through the darkness. Armed men were spreading across the property. Adrian had faced ambushes before. He had survived rival families, attempted assassinations, and betrayals from men he once trusted. But this was different. This time his son was standing behind him, and the woman he had spent 3 years mourning was alive in front of him. "Lucas, stay behind me," Adrian ordered. His voice was calm, but his eyes were filled with something Lucas had rarely seen in his father: fear. Not fear for himself. Fear for his son. Lucas clutched the back of Adrian's jacket. "Daddy, they're going to take me." Adrian immediately turned and crouched in front of him. "Nobody is taking you." "You promise." Lucas whispered. Adrian's expression softened. "I promise." Elena watched them silently, and for the first time she understood just how much the feared Mafia boss loved his child. Adrian could face 100 armed men without blinking, but one frightened look from Lucas could break through every wall he had built. His wife suddenly stepped forward. "The safe room isn't safe anymore." Adrian turned sharply. What? She pointed toward the security monitors. There are 3 hidden entrances into this mansion. Whoever is outside knows about them. Adrian stared at her. How do you know? She gave him a sad look. Because I helped design them. Adrian's jaw tightened. You knew about these entrances for years and never told me. I was trying to keep you alive. You disappeared for 3 years. Because staying near you would have gotten all of us killed. Adrian took a step toward her. Then tell me the truth now. His wife looked at Elena, then at Lucas. The person behind everything has been inside your organization for years. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Marcus. No, she shook her head. Marcus was helping Daniel. Adrian froze. Daniel. Elena's face changed at the name. His wife nodded. Your brother found the truth before anyone else did. Adrian stared at her as memories crashed through his mind. Daniel had supposedly betrayed him, stolen from him, and disappeared. Adrian had spent years believing his own brother had chosen power over family. Then why did Daniel vanish? He demanded. Because he discovered someone was using your name to build a second empire underneath yours. The mansion shook violently as another explosion sounded outside. Lucas cried out, and Adrian immediately pulled him into his arms. We don't have time, Adrian said. His wife nodded. Then we move. Adrian looked at Elena. Take Lucas to the hidden corridor. Lucas immediately protested.
No.
Adrian looked down. Lucas. You promised you wouldn't leave me. Adrian froze. The words cut deeper than any weapon. He pulled his son closer. I'm not leaving you. Lucas shook his head. Then don't send me away. Adrian looked at Elena, then at his wife. He finally nodded.
Fine.
He stays with us. They moved through the mansion and entered the library. Adrian pressed his hand against a section of the wall, and a hidden door opened. Lucas stared at it. I didn't know that was there. Adrian looked at his wife. Neither did I. She gave him a faint smile. I told you. I knew this house better than you thought. They entered the narrow passage, and Elena followed closely behind them. Marcus suddenly appeared at the entrance, holding his wounded side. Adrian immediately raised his gun. Don't move. Marcus stopped. If you want to survive tonight, you're going to need me. Adrian's eyes hardened. You lied to me. Yes. You betrayed me. No, Adrian's grip tightened around the weapon. Then explain everything. Marcus glanced at Adrian's wife. She already told you about Victor. Adrian's face went cold. My uncle. Marcus nodded. Victor has been behind the operation. Adrian stared at him. Why? Marcus answered quietly, because your father chose you instead of him. Adrian's expression hardened. His uncle Victor had always claimed he wanted nothing to do with the family business. He had stayed away from Adrian's empire and presented himself as the only normal member of the Vale family. Adrian had trusted him because Victor had never asked for anything. Now he understood the truth. Victor hadn't needed to ask. He had been taking things from the shadows. They reached the underground room, and Adrian's wife opened a hidden compartment using the silver key Elena had been carrying. Inside were old documents, photographs, hard drives, and financial records. Adrian picked up one folder and began reading. His expression changed with every page. Millions of dollars had been moved through shell companies using his identity. Weapons had been shipped under his name. Politicians had been bribed. People had been killed, and evidence had been planted to make it look like Adrian had ordered everything. Someone was building a second empire under mine, Adrian whispered. Marcus nodded. And when your wife discovered it, she became a problem. Adrian looked toward his wife. Why didn't you tell me? Her eyes filled with tears. Because I didn't know who I could trust. Adrian's face tightened. You could have trusted me. Could I? She whispered. Adrian went silent. You were surrounded by people who called themselves loyal while secretly working for Victor. I didn't know whether telling you would put you in more danger. She looked at Lucas. And I couldn't risk him. Adrian looked at his son. Lucas was staring at the floor, listening to every word. Suddenly, Adrian realized that the child had spent years carrying secrets that no child should ever have been forced to carry. Then Lucas spoke. "Mommy gave me something." Adrian turned toward him. "What?" Lucas slowly reached into his pajama pocket and pulled out the small brass key. Adrian stared at it. The number 317 was engraved on the metal. Elena immediately recognized it. "That's the second key." Adrian looked at her. "Second?" She nodded. "Your wife split the evidence into two parts. The silver key opens one archive. This key opens another." Adrian stared at Lucas. "You've had this for 3 years." Lucas nodded. "Mommy told me never to show Daddy." Adrian's expression broke. He knelt and took his son's hands. "I'm sorry." Lucas frowned. "For what?" "For making you feel like you had to keep secrets from me." Lucas looked at him for several seconds before whispering, "I was just trying to protect Mommy." Before Adrian could answer, the underground door exploded inward. Gunfire tore through the room. Adrian pushed Lucas behind a desk while Marcus returned fire. Elena grabbed Lucas and pulled him down. Adrian fired toward the doorway until the attackers retreated. Then everything became silent. Adrian looked around. Everyone alive. Elena nodded. Marcus was bleeding badly, but he was still standing. Adrian's wife suddenly looked toward the back wall. "There's another exit." Adrian stared at her. "Where?" She pointed. "Behind that panel." Adrian opened it, and a narrow staircase appeared. They moved through it quickly, but when they reached the upper level, Adrian heard a familiar voice. "Adrian." He stopped. His uncle Victor stepped into the hallway, surrounded by armed men. Victor looked almost relaxed. "You've made this unnecessarily difficult." Adrian raised his weapon. "You destroyed my family." Victor smiled.
No.
"Your father did that when he chose you." Adrian's expression became cold. "You used my name to build an illegal empire." "I used what should have been mine." "You killed people." Victor shrugged. "People die." Adrian stepped forward. "You tried to kill my wife." Victor looked toward her. "She survived." Adrian's eyes became murderous. "You tried to take my son." Victor's smile disappeared. "Lucas is the only thing that matters now." Adrian moved his weapon toward Victor, but his wife grabbed his arm. "Don't." Adrian looked at her. "Why?" "Because he wants you angry." Victor smiled. "She's always been smarter than you." Adrian stared at him. "You don't know me anymore." Victor laughed. "I know exactly who you are. That's why I know you'll shoot me." Adrian lowered his weapon slightly. No, Victor's smile faded. "What?" "I'm not going to become you." For the first time, Victor looked uncertain. Suddenly, gunfire erupted from behind Victor. Daniel appeared from the hidden corridor and shot one of the armed men. Elena stared at him in disbelief. "Daniel." Her brother looked at her. "I'm sorry." Elena rushed toward him and hugged him. Adrian remained frozen. Daniel looked at his brother. "I didn't betray you." Adrian's voice was low. "You let me believe you were dead." "I had to." "For 3 years." Victor had people everywhere. Adrian looked at his wife. "You knew." She nodded. "Daniel was trying to protect us." Adrian's eyes closed briefly. He had spent 3 years hating the wrong people. Victor suddenly pulled his weapon. Adrian reacted instantly. A shot rang through the hallway, and Victor dropped his gun. Adrian had shot him in the shoulder. Victor fell against the wall, clutching the wound. "You should have killed me," he spat. Adrian stared at him. "That's what you would have done." Victor laughed bitterly. "And what makes you different?" Adrian looked toward Lucas. His son was standing beside Elena, watching him. "Him." Victor frowned. Adrian continued, "I spent years building an empire because I thought power meant never being vulnerable. Then I had a son, and I realized the only thing worth protecting was the part of me that power could never replace." Victor was arrested before sunrise. Daniel turned over the evidence he had collected. Marcus survived his injuries and testified against Victor. The network Adrian's uncle had secretly built collapsed within weeks. The illegal parts of Adrian's empire were dismantled, and Adrian began separating his legitimate businesses from the criminal world he had inherited. For the first time, he wasn't trying to become more powerful. He was trying to make sure Lucas never had to become like him. But the biggest battle was still waiting in the hospital. Adrian's wife had been wounded during the final confrontation. The bullet had struck her arm, but thankfully nothing vital had been damaged. Lucas sat beside her bed holding her hand. "Don't disappear again," he whispered. She started crying. "I won't." "Promise." She looked at Adrian. He was standing near the window, watching them. "I promise." Lucas looked at his father. "Daddy." Adrian walked over. "Yes." "Mommy is staying." Adrian looked at his wife. She smiled through her tears. "If your father lets me." Adrian looked at her for a long moment. "You don't need my permission." Weeks passed. Lucas slowly returned to his normal life. His mother began telling him stories about his childhood. Daniel visited often. Marcus disappeared from Adrian's security team and started helping expose the remaining people connected to Victor. Elena remained in the mansion because Lucas refused to let her leave. At first, Adrian pretended it didn't bother him. Then he realized he was beginning to look forward to seeing her every morning. Elena would walk into the kitchen and criticize the way Adrian made coffee. She would argue with him about Lucas's bedtime. She would tell him that his security rules were ridiculous. Adrian would threaten to fire her, and Elena would remind him that he had already tried that several times. One rainy evening, Adrian walked into the living room and stopped. Lucas was asleep on the sofa with his head resting against Elena's shoulder. His wife was sitting nearby, smiling as she watched them. The mansion looked completely different now. There were toys scattered across the floor, children's drawings on the refrigerator, books beside the fireplace, and laughter coming from rooms that had once been silent. Adrian stood there for several seconds, realizing that the place no longer felt like a fortress. It finally felt like a home. Elena opened her eyes and noticed him. "Are you going to stand there all night?" Adrian smiled. "Maybe." Elena glanced at Lucas. "He's asleep." "I noticed." "Then stop staring." Adrian walked closer and pulled a blanket over his son. "You know, you're very bossy." Elena smiled. "Someone has to be." Adrian looked at her. "You said that before." "Because it's true." Adrian stared at her for a moment. "I owe you an apology." Elena's smile faded. "Adrian, I blamed you for 3 years." She looked away. "You had reasons. They weren't good enough." Elena remained silent. Adrian continued. "You protected my wife. You protected my son. And I treated you like an enemy because I couldn't accept that I had been wrong." Elena looked at him. "You were grieving. That doesn't excuse everything." She gave him a small smile. "Maybe not." Adrian almost laughed. "You could at least pretend to forgive me." "I'll consider it." "You're impossible." "And yet I'm still here." Adrian looked toward Lucas. "Yes." Elena followed his gaze. "He loves you." Adrian's expression softened. "I love him more than anything." Elena smiled. "He loves you too. He just needed to know you weren't going anywhere." A sleepy voice suddenly came from the sofa. "Daddy." Adrian turned. Lucas opened one eye. "I'm here." Lucas looked toward Elena. "Is she staying?" Adrian glanced at Elena. "That's up to her." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Lucas sat up slightly. "She should stay." Adrian sighed. "Lucas." "What?" "Go back to sleep." Lucas grinned. "You like her?" Elena covered her mouth to hide a laugh. Adrian stared at his son. "You're 8. You don't know anything." Lucas smiled. "I know you smile when she comes into the room." Adrian went silent. Elena's eyes widened with amusement. Lucas continued, "And you don't smile like that with anybody else." Adrian rubbed his forehead. "Go to sleep." Lucas laughed softly and closed his eyes again. Elena looked at Adrian. "Your son is very observant." "Unfortunately." "He's right." Adrian looked at her. "About what?" Elena smiled. You know exactly what. Adrian stepped closer.
Fine.
Fine what? I like you. Elena's smile grew. That sounded painful. It was. She laughed quietly. Try again. Adrian stared at her. I love having you here. Elena's expression softened. Better. Adrian reached for her hand. Don't make me say it again. I wasn't going to. Lucas suddenly opened his eyes. Can Elena be my mommy too? Silence filled the room.
Elena froze.
Adrian looked at his son. His wife covered her mouth to hide a laugh. Lucas looked between them innocently. What? Adrian sighed. Nothing. Elena smiled at him. I think he's serious. Lucas nodded. I like mommy, but I like Elena too. Adrian looked at Elena. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Adrian's wife smiled. I think our son has already made his decision.
Elena croqued beside Lucas.
You know you already have one mommy, right? Lucas nodded. I know. And nobody can replace her. I know. Lucas looked at Elena. But I can have another person who loves me. Elena's eyes filled with tears. She pulled him into a hug. Yes, you can. Adrian watched them, and something inside him finally became quiet. He had spent years believing family was something he had to protect with weapons, money, and fear. Now he understood that family wasn't a fortress. It was the people who stayed when the walls came down. Months later, Adrian stood outside the mansion watching Lucas play in the garden. His wife sat on the patio with Elena, talking and laughing. Daniel was helping Lucas build something from pieces of wood, while Marcus was arguing with him about the correct way to hold a hammer. Adrian smiled. It was chaos. It was loud. It was imperfect. And it was everything he had once thought he could never have again. Lucas suddenly looked toward him. Daddy. Adrian turned. What? Come here. Adrian walked toward him. What happened? Lucas pointed toward the wooden structure. We built a house. Adrian looked at the crooked little structure. That's a house. Lucas nodded proudly. It's our family house. Adrian looked at the tiny wooden walls. Looks expensive. Lucas rolled his eyes. It's not for money. Adrian smiled. Then what is it for? Lucas looked around at everyone. For everyone who stays. Adrian's smile disappeared for a moment. Those words reached somewhere deep inside him. Everyone who stays. He looked toward his wife, then Elena, then Daniel, and finally his son. For 3 years, Adrian had believed his family had been taken from him. But somehow, after all the lies, betrayals, secrets, and danger, they had found their way back to each other. That night, Adrian stood at the bedroom window while rain fell softly against the glass. Elena was sitting on the edge of the bed, reading a story to Lucas. His wife was laughing quietly from the doorway. Adrian watched them and realized something he had never understood when he was feared by everyone else. Power had never been about controlling people. It was about having someone worth protecting without destroying yourself in the process. His son had taught him that. His wife had reminded him. And Elena had shown him that sometimes the person you hated for the truth was the person who had been protecting your family all along. Lucas finally closed the book. Daddy. Adrian walked over. Yes. Lucas looked at him sleepily. Are we safe now? Adrian looked at his son. Once, he would have answered with guards, weapons, cameras, and locked doors. This time, he simply sat beside him. Yes. Lucas smiled. Really? Adrian pulled the blanket over him. Really? Lucas closed his eyes. Because you're here. Adrian's throat tightened. Because we are all here. Lucas smiled and fell asleep. Adrian looked toward the doorway. His wife stood there, and Elena was beside her. For the first time in years, Adrian Vale wasn't thinking about enemies, territory, money, or power. He wasn't thinking about the empire he had lost or the one he could still build. He was thinking about the people in front of him. And this time, Adrian wasn't going to let fear take it away.